Doom. Ba-bum. Go live.
Here we go.
Ba-bum. Doom.
Dun,
Go
dun.
live.
Here we go.
Boom. Ba-bum.
Here
Doom.
we go.
I think we're live. Boom. Da-da.
Here we go.
Boom. We go live.
Yes, we do. We are here. Now we are.
I've been listening to Freddie Mercury today.
Really? I was just listening to some Jane's Addiction in my head.
You addict.
Whenever I used to go skiing, as soon as I'd go down the slope each time, there was this one song, I forget what it's called, but it'd be "Here We Go," and then it just, and that takes me away every time. Yes, thank you for joining us. You're also here.
Yeah. We're a little bit late today because I was on a workshop with the amazing Peter Kuning.
Yeah, we had him on, and he does the money work. If you haven't seen that episode, it's very, very good.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that afterwards. I'm curious to see how that went. And we've got a great guest on, and I have a hard time saying his name. It's one of those dyslexias.
Ernest Holm
Svendse. Ernest Svendse. You do a better job at that than I do.
Svendsen.
Yeah. So we're going to talk to him about a life of inquiry on a wonderful chaos. Happens sometimes. We are here in hot as hell Amsterdam,
and I've got Andy's hairy leg touching my hairy leg.
You can see Bambos has come dressed for the occasion. Let's just say I'll take one button down, Bambos. We've got white shirts. I'm just trying to hide a little bit more of my skin than you are. I'm married, so I've got other priorities than you do. You've got a fan club out there, Bambos. You do know that. I swear to you, I don't know how it works, but like every time we get off, there's another woman that's fallen in love with you. That's
really?
Sweet. Yeah, they always call you that sweet Bambos, or you make yourself lovable on air. So somehow they find you attractive.
In real life.
If they knew, before you do go out with them, call me and we'll have a discussion. So
yeah, you need to be to read the, what do you call it?
What do you call it?
The usage. The before use.
yeah, take care before use, or whatever. The instruction manual. We have, as I mentioned earlier, Ernest Holm Svendse on. I got in contact through Ernst through a very funny medium, through a Facebook ad. I was just flipping through my Facebook, and he posted a Facebook ad, and I saw it once, and I didn't like the ad, by the way. Like, I can talk about him on there. It wasn't something I looked at and I got excited about, but I mean, it had to have worked somehow because I clicked on it, right? It was kind of a stick figure ad.
So what made you click?
Because it said Byron Katie.
Okay.
And I've been really curious, and I've loved Byron Katie for a long time. And I also mentioned off air, sometimes I've been a little bit frustrated, not with her practice, but sometimes the practitioners.
Yeah.
Because like every way or every technique or tool is just a technique or a tool. And I've seen it used so slavishly that I didn't feel like I was interacting with some of the practitioners in the past.
So you're saying it becomes like it's only this.
Yeah. And to the point where it's like, can we just interact? And it's like, no, we have 4 steps we need to go through. And it was just, I had that experience on more than one occasion. So I got a little bit, a little bit not excited about it, but it didn't diminish the work, which is beautiful. And the work actually didn't really come from Byron Katie. It's called coherence therapy, and it existed way before Byron. And it basically says we're doing something which says we take a juxtaposition event, which is taking an event that's occurring and create a juxtaposition to it so that you rewire your thinking. Juxtaposition. It's like, it's not all that dissimilar from a lot of the things I'll be doing in the new book, where you actually...
Projections, you mean?
Not projection. You'll actually take a idea in your head, and then you'll say, is that really true? We'll have Ernst go through it with us, I'm sure, on the show. But
sweet.
What you'll do is you basically help your brain see that whatever you've told a story about a certain thing isn't necessarily the truth. And this juxtaposition event, right, which is based in coherence therapy, actually creates a different rewiring of the brain. It's quite interesting. This isn't the only thing he does, so we'll discuss a lot more. But I think a life of inquiry, there's nothing that I know that's more fascinating in life, because as soon as the journey is inward, you basically have unlimitless interest, because you can learn like about yourself infinitely, where you might be able to only read about something else in a book. So
I mean, you're also someone that's done a life of inquiry, right?
that is my life. Yeah, but people don't understand it because they don't see. They think that like I always say, the better questions you ask yourself, the more trained you are to see deeper inside of yourself. And I noticed that people ask dumb questions. I call them dumb, and that's judgment and all that. But I'm going to do it anyways. And the dumb questions, they lead you down the idea that even if you answer them, it doesn't really help you.
What's a dumb question?
Dumb question is like, does this come from my mother or father?
Oh, okay.
You know, and yeah, maybe contextually it may help you, but on another level, knowing it doesn't help you deal with the pain that I feel totally helpless.
Well, I can imagine you pass the responsibility on to them.
Potentially, yeah. So I like the deeper questions, like what's beyond that? What's beyond that? And then you know how I go, it almost always leads to death, and just this helplessness of, wow, basically everything I think I have control of is just an illusion. And can I make peace with that? So my inquiry usually goes there at the end, right? Yeah, cool.
How are you, by the way? Before we bring Ernest, I know you've been fasting with this cabbage.
Yeah, I lost 8 pounds last week. Or
pounds or kilos?
8 pounds. 8 pounds, 4 kilos. And I've been eating less carbs. And I'm just, with the new book coming out, I got into the routine of doing stuff and not thinking about my body and not taking care of routines that were healthy. And COVID didn't help any. So yeah. Now I'm taking care of myself.
Beautiful.
You?
Well, we have a photo shoot this week, so I hope that you.
I like how you're looking at my belly. Like,
get that 6-pack.
That's nice. You? How are things with you?
Well, I just came out of a workshop and I saw that it was around 64 people, and I just wanted to push everyone away, disconnect. And I was just watching myself while being in that space. Yeah, it was interesting. And I just made notes of how I was experiencing being there in that moment.
Yeah, you like to sabotage other people's workshops. You know that.
I didn't say anything, though.
I know,
really
but I'm saying in the past. Can we agree on that, or are you going to defend?
Absolutely, Andy. I have been a workshop sabotager.
Intentionally or otherwise. That's sort of your role. If you see a contradiction or something, I'm going to point it out.
Oh, but me disconnect and then do with the facility.
Yeah,
just,
I got it. Yeah.
So
cool. Let's bring him on.
Ernest Holm Svendse.
Hey, Ernest.
Hello, guys. Yes,
hey.
Ernest Holm Svendse.
So, yeah, you pronounce it so nicely.
So how do you feel like Andy picking you up on Facebook and chatting you up?
Well, I enjoyed it. It was an experiment for me. I haven't done any like Facebook advertising before, and I wanted to try some stuff out, and I did. It's good feedback that the stick figure didn't work for you, Andy. These are the illustrations taken from my book on the work, and so I thought, I can use them. That's easy. I'll just use them and then put some stuff there. But
yeah.
But I think the effect is exactly as you say. It's not the packaging; it's the product, right? And if the offering is good, then I see it more as information than trying to lure people into my evil empire.
I love that, actually. I mean, that now you're speaking my language, because actually, if I do everything with what I've got, and I'll upgrade if necessary along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's great. If you said, hey, I just needed to put an ad up to see what came in, that's really nice.
Totally.
A wonderful chaos came in, apparently.
Hey, well, now I'm here with you guys, right? So couldn't be better.
Yeah, isn't that nice? That's how life works.
Nice.
If you don't plan it, things really just happen.
That's the wonderful chaos. Yeah.
So behind the scenes, I always have to look on the bottom left to look at your name, Ernest.
Yeah, that's okay. Ernest. Yeah.
Ernest. Before we got on to the live, you shared that you started self-inquiry at a very young age, and I'm wondering what was the prompt?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say I started with self-inquiry. I started with a deep interest in the mind and how it worked. And in the beginning, it was like a fascination of, like, because I was very young. I mean, I think in ninth grade, I hypnotized my classmates so they couldn't take their hands down from the back of their head. It was that kind of like fascination with what's possible with the mind. And then it just became this journey of deepening investigations and experiments and understandings of how the mind works. And at some point, I then discovered that inquiry is, at least so far, what I've found to be by far the most effective way to work with the mind and change it or open its eyes to other things. And so when I came across that at some point in the journey, I picked that up. And then at some point I came across Byron Katie as the structure that she uses, and I really enjoyed that. So I picked that up and I've been working with that now for 10 plus years professionally. Yeah. So So
I'm curious. I'm just curious for one moment. So you're in ninth grade, hypnotizing your friends.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
And is this why you guys are drinking, or is this just like
this was in between classes. It was in. We went outside the door. I remember it very clearly because I was so amazed that it worked. We went just out the place where you're not allowed to go, but we went out there anyway to have some quiet. And then we were like 3 or 4 guys, and then Frederick, who had like a very susceptible mind, I think, I was lucky he was my first candidate, and it just worked. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And then I started.
Did it at the same time scare you a bit because all of a sudden you realized you had a power you weren't aware of?
No, I think actually from the very beginning, and this is one of the things I love about inquiry also, but from the very beginning I understood that I can't do something to your mind. You have to do it. So for hypnosis, for instance, I can't hypnotize you. It's you who hypnotizes yourself using my suggestions, right? But I can't do some magic thing and then suddenly you're hypnotized. And so and that's what I love about, and that's been with me all the time. So I didn't feel I have this unusual power. I realized I could do it. Was a nice party trick, and it looked good with the girls, but I didn't feel I had power over others in that way.
Do you know do you know now by sight when someone's susceptible or not? Can you tell before you try?
Well, I don't do hypnosis anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask then, do you, or even now, would you be able to say, oh, I can now see these people would be more susceptible?
No, I wouldn't dare to say that.
No, interesting.
People are so surprising.
I'm really disappointed though. I wanted you to hypnotize Andy.
Yeah, I was I've never had that before. That would be a new experience for me.
Hypnosis is not my ball game at all. That was just my
No, we're turning you there. We're going, forget about where we were. Now we're all about hypnosis.
That's fine, but I think you know probably more about it than I do. I don't want to make myself
my brother was a magician, and he basically did a lot of that kind of thing in the house. So I saw it. But I never asked him if he could spot the susceptible people.
But did you notice that he always went for you?
No, he never did. I've never been hypnotized, actually. I don't know about you, but I've never been hypnotized.
Farah, who we've also had on show, hypnotized me.
Oh, did she? Okay. And did it work?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. She's like, whenever I see her, I give her a hug. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, it's so weird, right? And your money.
Oh, yeah. So you, from that age, so you didn't have a big trauma. Mom and dad were okay. You didn't get slapped. You didn't, weren't abused.
Yeah, my trauma in the beginning, actually, when I entered this whole world, was that I didn't have any, because everyone had these huge stories, and I was just this clean kid who just, and so over time, as I've gotten more subtle with it, I can see that that I've also picked up my stuff, of course, and it just operates on like, it feels more subtle, more like fine. The energy is sort of finer around it. So I can seem to work very well. I don't have obvious trauma, but I do notice when I get still how many of my responses that are sometimes driven by beliefs or by the things I've picked up and how I've been treated. But sort of on the overall, I've come through pretty clean. Yeah.
That's beautiful. What would you what would you say, where are the ones, if you feel comfortable, of course, ask, where are the ones you feel like you might get sticky? Like where you say, oh, that's where I'm not able to like be a vessel of just channeling.
You mean in other people?
Oh, in the interaction. Like I know for myself, there's certain situations that might come up where I'm just not as clean. Like when I'm a coach, it's like, oh, I'm not as good a coach in those moments.
Yeah. Where are the things? I mean, the things that showed up when you asked wasn't with my clients. It's stuff with my wife, you know, where I notice I have like on the attachment style, I'm a little on the anxious side because my mother was a little unpredictable. So I can become like uneasy if she's in a bad mood or something. So there's a little codependency there. I would say with clients, that's another thing I really love about inquiry is, again, I'm just holding a space. And I heard how you described it before. And I totally agree with you that space of inquiry is, of course, a meditative, open, investigative, loving space. It's not a cookbook, and those who run it like that, it is all about connection and authenticity. And still, I'm just holding a space for someone. I mean, I'm also asking some questions, of course, and guiding some stuff. But it's you as the client or the one who's working, who's doing the stuff. So I notice in myself that, you know, in the beginning, I needed to do some work on, he needs my help or she needs my help, or I can do something. And I've worked through that a lot. So now it's like, I don't think I can really help you. I realize you need to help yourself. So that was where I was a little more sticky when I was doing NLP coaching in the older days. I really wanted to do something with my clients. I was leading them, or I was running it. It was almost like whether it was therapy or whatever, coaching, but it was like me doing the stuff. And of course, if they came out well, I was responsible, so I could feel really good about myself, you know. And in the beginning, if they started crying, that was like, wow, we're really getting deep here, you know. All of these things that were dependent on them.
I love it. I love how all of us have gone through that. Right? Everyone who's ever gotten to coaching has this idea, like, oh, they cried, or I somehow like, and then I did it. You get this validation of like, oh, I'm good. You know?
That's totally it. I did it when it goes well, and when it doesn't go well, they're not doing it right.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best.
They're disconnected.
They're not doing it right.
They don't get it. They just don't get it. They're not.
Bambos and I have had this discussion a lot, where I've explained to him, I mean, because I'll mentor Bambos quite a bit because I've been doing the work a lot longer. And sometimes when I'll share with them, I'll say, when I'm not able to support someone, I see it as a reflection of me and not of them.
That's very mature.
So what's the thing that I'm not able to access or find, or and that's going back to the whole idea of inquiry. Now I sit and wonder, and there's no blame, because I don't say it's his fault nor my fault. It's just there's something here that I'm not able to see so clearly, and therefore my brain allows me to continue to stay and wonder without blame, and then find maybe another way that I might not have expected.
And how do you know that you're not able to support someone?
Oh, I mean, when I say not able to, I had a client very recently that was just raging, primordial kind of rage, very regressing to a very young age. And Belmus is looking at me because I don't have those clients all that often. And I noticed that I was like, wow. So at this very moment, I can't hit their logical self, because if I say anything logically, it's like, I'm talking to now a 12-year-old, like the person's 40, but I'm talking to a 12-year-old. So I'm not going to talk to them. So I can just be there in love.
Exactly.
And so, and that is enough. There is no need for it to be more than that.
Wonderful. Totally. Yeah.
But by the same token, right? That's a pattern that continues going over and over and over again. And I'm aware that those kind of patterns need to hit a breaking point that could end in suicide or 20 other things that aren't good. And I don't take responsibility for it, but I sit in the question, what would be something more, or something that I'm not seeing, so that I'm not projecting on the other person and making them like, hey, they're a kid and they can't deal with this, because that's just me validating an image. And he stays that way if I do that, of course.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds so beautiful. I mean, the open mind is just the sweetest thing on earth. I mean, just have someone with an open mind meeting you with an open mind. That's just incredible.
And that's what the person says, is that he's in his 40s. He's never had someone that could meet him in the open mind. And on my end, yes, there is an aspect which I could also embrace, right? That I can be in there with love for somebody, but I can't deny that guy might commit suicide. Like that isn't because when someone is that far into the child self and they're not able to raise up to any kind of higher level of consciousness around a behavior, you know, all bets are off.
Yeah.
That's at least my take on it.
Yeah.
No. Bambo's had a bit of that. He scared me at some point.
Yeah, he poked the bear though.
And were you ever close to committing suicide in your were you
in the past? Yeah, not in the moment where we
not in that interaction. Okay, right.
But I did like unleash so much anger. Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm laughing, but if I look back in the moment of how you held space, Jesus, Andy.
Yeah, I can cry now if I feel it, because it hurts to see someone you love in that space, and yet there's all you can do is hold space.
Yeah.
Right?
And at least what I can say was just him and another woman, Joanne Livasio. They held my hand with a lot of love. I didn't feel judged. So there was so much space for the anger to be unleashed that in the end, like, strange to say it, like I never thought I would say that I found peace with my anger. Like, no longer have I reacted to anger. I'll see it coming up and there's like, oh, I'm getting angry. Oh, what's going on? And then there's this sweet spot before the anger, which is normally sadness.
Yeah, I'm really looking into, like, one of the parts of my like ongoing practice, and that's one of the nice things about the work we have, is that when you're working on something yourself, you know, it tends to come up in the relationship with the clients, either because they actually bring it, and I don't know how that universe works, or just because that's what you are ready to have activated, right? But one of the things I'm really looking at is the process of welcoming. Like really deeply welcoming all parts of ourselves, and for instance the anger or whatever it is, and really, like, you do not have to change for me. You are welcome just the way you are, and you can stay for as long as you want. And there's just something magical about that. It sounds like what you're describing, this just allowing the anger, welcoming it, loving it, and then
Have you done by any chance authentic relating?
I do circling, and I do authentic relating work also. Yeah, exactly.
So I guess you know that's one of the first principles.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Welcome everything.
Welcome everything.
Yeah.
But there, like, my understanding of welcoming everything is welcoming myself, and then to what degree do I welcome everything? Like, if someone starts getting violent,
you're a fucking asshole.
I am.
Great. That's welcoming.
Yeah. Well, like, for me, it's like, it's so important to also welcome what then comes up in me, right? In that.
Oh, nice.
Bam.
So because if we push that away, then we're not welcoming. If I think I can roll over myself with a steam, whatever it's called, to welcome you, I mean, that's a classic.
I'm going to be a Zen.
Yeah, let's talk about that one for a second. Welcoming everything could easily be confused with the idea that everything you say is fine because you said it. Like, that's, as opposed to everything is also my emotions and feelings and everything that comes up. Like, that's the everything.
Yes.
In fact, let's be honest, that everything is more real than your words because it's in my head. That's the everything going on up here.
Say it again.
Yeah, well, I'm not tracking you. Who's who in this?
If I say that everything in the world is a creation in my brain, I actually project my reality. Then all of a sudden you say something to me, which in my mind, at the start, I make it about you. But if I'm honest with myself, it's always about me.
Yes.
So as I was trying to, probably in a very too complicated way of saying, was just, if I accept that everything is about me anyways, then the first will accept everything. Then what I'm really saying is accept everything in myself, as opposed to accept the other.
And what just happened for me was you're saying accept instead of welcome now. And there could be a difference between those two words. So accept everything and welcome everything isn't necessarily the same thing.
Yeah, I like the distinguisher that you noticed. And I see both as part of the same coin. I see accept is the more logical and welcome is the more emotional. So I actually see that both are required in order. And I see that in paradox, theory, basically it's often the left and the right side brain. We know it's oversimplification, of course, but both sides of the coin are usually where one feels peace. So interesting. Sorry, this is way too heady. Good. We've gone way down a rabbit hole, but I just sorry, I had a lot of discoveries as we spoke.
Great. Yeah. And let's leave it there. That's sounds like the cue. Yeah.
So your 4 questions. Can we, for those who maybe don't know it, can we do a round of that?
I have one.
Oh, please.
One curiosity, or like I want to own that I what Andy said earlier, if I go into a workshop and I feel the facilitator is not congruent, and congruent means they're trying to hold space but they're not owning parts of themselves. So and that could be that they haven't fully embraced all parts of themselves and they're hiding that and they're trying to hold space for someone, let's say, that's been raped.
Yes.
And you can feel the way they're going about. Like I get a strong reaction in my body, like an alert.
Wow.
And I'm wondering, since you have not endured darkness or like, but I love that you said my thing was my thing had to overcome was the fact that I didn't have to go through anything, and that in itself has its own demons. But my body has never lived that, so it doesn't resonate. But I don't want to pretend that it's less.
Right.
But how do you navigate those situations in your own life?
Well, I actually think that and I don't know if that's really answering you asked how do I navigate that in my own life, but I want to say this, that as I have worked deeper and deeper, what I've discovered is that I have been raped, and I have raped myself also, but not in that physical way, but the whole energy around being used. And when I get still enough and I really feel into it, there is a small child in there that hurts with that abuse. So I think one of the ways I can resonate, even if I haven't been physically, even if I'm not a woman, let's say, just to make it simple, and I'm not talking rape now, but I can still resonate with feminine because I can find feminine in me, right? And the same goes for a lot of those things that as I have become still enough, I have been able to feel the energies of that. I have also, met my inner killer, right? And my inner rapist. I have seen how I have raped people, but they may not even have noticed it, right? They may not even have seen it. I'm sure in some way it's been going out there, but I certainly wouldn't get locked up for it, right? Because it's been an emotional thing, or it's been something other than the physical thing that we have a law against. But I can tap into it and feel very close to it. And so in that way, I feel I can flow with my client through a process around rape, for instance. And again, at the same time, acknowledging where I haven't had the physical experience and I haven't felt that, whatever she's been through, if it's a woman. So again, it's the holding a space where I can resonate emotionally, and I respect that she has experiences that I don't have. And so to allow her process. And then my questions come out of the journey I'm on along with her. And if they're helpful, that's great. And I trust that she will find her own way if she just gets the space to sink into her experience. Wow. So yeah, I did notice in the beginning, when I was just getting started, I really enjoyed some of the stuff that Katie says sometimes, and I was copying her in some of her mannerisms and some of her ways of speaking. And one day I realized exactly what you were pointing to, that I was actually saying things that I couldn't own. I was just a parrot repeating spiritual insights that I'd heard from her, but I hadn't actually an experience of that. And I could fake it because if people like you weren't in my workshops, I could sort of sit there and be the wise guy, if I wasn't like confronted with it. But I found myself that it's just not within, it felt off, it felt wrong, and it wasn't within my integrity. And so at some point, I remember I consciously made the decision, I'm not going to share any insights that I haven't owned myself. And if it's not known to me, never mind. There's so much else. I'll come from that place. It was a big step for me, like stepping out of the shadow of, the guru. And I've had many gurus in my life, but taking on authority myself, you could say, becoming my own authority. That was like a huge step for me. And I think,
like this guy.
yeah, this is what you like to hear, yeah. But I really think, Andy, that what you're referring to, this very structured thing, is where whoever you've experienced lacks that taking own authority or taking ownership of the process.
Yeah, but there's something beautiful you've added to this, which I really appreciate, and I think we also have to celebrate, is that one has to take their own journey, and that they decide what they want to learn, what practices they are attracted to, and how that informs how they work with clients. And we need to take the journey. So that means as one evolves, maybe they can be helpful to 80% of the population and not the 20.
Exactly.
Or 60%.
Yeah.
And then, and it's sort of funny. Everyone doesn't need to be a master, right? If you're just one step ahead of the one that you're actually working with, that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not really in general looking for, I want my clients to have been to 20 trainings. Like, I really want them to done all of it. And I want them to test the shit out of me.
Yes.
Like you get to be fully you. You get to test me logically. You get to test me emotionally. You get to test me on my own shit. Like, nothing off the table. And then I have fun, because that's like, now we're in another realm of, we're really dancing. And if I come with you with a theory ahead of time, it means I'm in control of the situation, which I never am anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So every dance is a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I like to go in the middle of fights, like two people really angry, shouting, screaming at each other, because I have so much compassion for either side.
Mm-hmm.
But the joy is loving each individual in the way that the other person can't at that moment, and then showing them through me the love and how it looks, so they connect back to that, and their interaction just shifts. And that's joy for me.
And how do you define love in this context?
Love is like, I was thinking, someone asked me some time ago, what do you do for work? And every day I answer it differently, because it doesn't, it's not like a formulaic thing. But I say, I reframe whatever one is seeing in terms of love, and then through the filter of love, you just speak differently.
Yes,
there's just different words that come out of your mind. There's not good or bad anymore. It's just, things are the way they are, and there's a beauty in that. And then there's a love and appreciation, and you see the people for who they are and what they're trying, and not what they're lacking in. And it's not a justification. That's where some people might get confused, because they think, you're just trying to justify behavior. No, you even see the consequences of behavior, but you don't necessarily place a judgment on it. Yes, they might die. Yes, their alcoholism might mean that they're going to die an early death, and you can still love them for that and say, "Hey, apparently this is the journey that they've had to take." Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
4 questions.
4 questions.
4 questions and turnarounds. I think turnarounds are important to take in also. Yeah. Yeah, so the work is so inquiry is.
But why don't we just do it? Can we try it? Can we run it?
Sure, absolutely.
Should we just do it with me, because it's always fun in case I cry. The ratings always go up.
Oh, good. We'll get. But you'll have to do that. As I said, I'm not. I know. I'm not the one doing it, but sure.
No, of course not.
Yeah. So What's our time frame? What's a stressful situation in your life at the moment?
Finances.
Mm-hmm. What's up with finances for you?
Fear of success. Like, if I'm not suffering to make things happen, then I'm going to fail. So I need to always maintain some level of stress in my life.
Good.
And it gets exhausting.
Yes. And I know you've just come from a workshop, and
I already answered that question myself. So
yeah, I hear that we're continuing that, and that's good. So but so there's also already some clarity. Okay, so what you found is that that you have a belief, which is that in order to make money, like making money is an effort or something like that. It takes stress, or it takes. Is that
money doesn't come easy, so I need to always maintain tension in my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you believe that, Andy?
No, I mean, that's how I know you. So yeah. You need tension.
Yeah, but the funny thing, I'm saying it out loud and I don't feel the emotion with it. So that's why I'm double checking if you're feeling something.
And is that because it's already shifted in the workshop, you think?
Well, let's put it this way. The statement, I'm a failure, touches more emotion. And this other statement is something that Peter Kooning has shared with me. And I don't fully...
Right.
It feels like more a concept in my mind. I don't see it yet. So maybe we should say I'm a failure.
I'm a failure.
Well, let's make because one of the things, let me point that out. Like, so what we do when we do inquiry is we work with the nervous system. I guess we do that with all methods, really. And one of the things that really works for the nervous system is specificity, right? Instead of concepts in the head, then to actually be physically present in situations. So if you can remember a situation where
I went to the supermarket and I didn't have money on my bank account and I couldn't buy food. This was 6 weeks ago.
Perfect.
And I walked out crying, feeling like a failure.
Wonderful. And what's the most stressful moment in that situation? Is that when you discover it? Is that when you walk out?
Shame.
Yeah, but what's the most stressful moment? Where in the process of your shopping trip did you peak in terms of emotional stress?
I quickly checked my bank account as I was taking stuff, and I realized, oh shit, I don't have any money on my account.
Right.
Yeah.
And was that the most stressful moment? Was that when you saw there's not money on my account?
The stressful thing, I had to put the stuff back on the shelf and walk out of there.
Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah. And if you go there, so go there again, go back into that situation, see yourself there. You're standing in the shop and you're putting things back. You've discovered you have no money on your account. And now, so in that moment, because of all of this, you are a failure.
I'm a failure.
Is that true? And stay in that moment and really look at it. You're putting things back on the shelves, walking out empty-handed. And that proves that you're a failure. Is that true?
If I say no, I'm not a failure. I feel the tears coming out of my eyes.
Mm-hmm. And I'm asking you, it's like when you were in that moment, you were in that fully emotional reaction. You were this part of you. Yeah. And now in this moment, as we're sitting here, there's access to more of you. Right. And we want to hold on to that part that was activated there, but we also want to bring in like the wiser aspect of you and have both of them. And so if you are to land in either a yes or a no, and I ask you again, the fact that you're putting these things back on the shelf and walking out empty-handed means you're a failure. Is that true?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
And the story behind, do you want to know the story behind
No. We'll stay with just yes or no, because that really keeps it tight or emotionally. Yeah. Okay. Now, can you absolutely know that that's true? Can you absolutely know that the fact that you didn't have any money in your account to buy food means you're a failure? And again, a yes or a no.
No, I can't absolutely know that that's true.
Okay. So take a moment and just let that sink in. Just breathe that in. You can't know for sure. Can't know for sure that this means you're a failure. Now, how do you react? What happens when you're there in the supermarket and you believe you're a failure? You're putting things back and you're walking out and you believe you're a failure. How do you react? What happens?
I want to hide. I don't want to share what happened with anyone. Don't want to talk about it. And I feel stuckness in my body, especially in the heart space. My immediate thought was, okay, so we're going to pick up leftovers from the organic market on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an immediate action plan as to how to feed myself in the coming time.
And as you see those images of picking up leftovers at the market, is that also connected with being a failure? Is that like a negative?
Yeah, there's shame there because when I've done it in the past, I put a hoodie on so no one would recognize me.
Yeah. So you're watching that movie of you shamefully hidden away, picking up those things. And in that moment, you believe that's you.
Yeah.
And then all those feelings. Yeah. And what else do you notice? How do you react? What happens when you believe this thought? I'm a failure. And you're in that supermarket. You're walking out of the supermarket.
Feel angry, can't sleep, blaming myself. How can I let this happen?
Yeah. Yeah. So images from the past also is what I hear. Like proof from the past of how you're no good, you're a failure, you should have done this, you should have done that. Yeah. Okay, so we are in a bit of a time restraint, but we could easily spend half an hour just exploring this, exploring all the things that happen in that little moment. It's amazing, all the inner movies, stories from the past that comes out, how you treat yourself, how you start relating to other people there. There's so much going on, and all of that we step into, and clearly you're really feeling it now, which is the core. We want the nervous system to experience the consequence of believing this thought, I'm a failure, and really connect them, right?
Yeah.
So then we slide into the next question now, which is, or the next little meditation. It's really like 4 little meditations, these questions. So the fourth one is, so you're there in the supermarket, putting things back on the shelves and walking out. And now the question is, who would you be in that same situation without that thought? So you can see yourself there. Everything is the same. And who would you be without the story that you're a failure, putting things back?
Who would I be without the story of I'm a failure in that same scenario?
Yes. If for whatever reason that thought just never showed up in you.
I guess it would be like a fun social media post. Hey, guess what, guys? I just went in the supermarket and I just couldn't afford food.
Yeah, it would.
Like that's where my life is right now.
Yeah. And how does that feel to view it through that lens of not having that story? of having it be a potentially funny update for people to know. What's it like to go through the same process?
Celebrating that part of my life, my incapacity or whatever I perceive it is.
Yeah.
And just not having to hide it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm also hearing a lot of self-love there in welcoming yourself and the situation the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, we could stay in this a little longer, but I'll just move us on. So these were the 4 questions, and then we get to the turnarounds. And in this one, there's basically, never mind, that's technical, but one turnaround is, I'm not a failure. I'm not a failure. And what we are asking now is for your mind to just step into that. Could it be true? Could it actually be true that despite this situation, you're not a failure? That putting things back on the shelves and walking out like that doesn't mean you're a failure. Could that actually be true?
I'm not a failure. Yeah, it can be true.
Yeah. And how could that be true? Can you give some examples of why it might be true that you're not a failure actually because of this?
Because my mind chooses to go immediately to the worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's true, then the opposite is also true equally.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a failure because when I look back, there was nothing I could do. I didn't predict COVID.
So stay with that for a moment. Just let that in. You're blaming yourself, but actually you're not in control of stuff.
I'm not in control of stuff.
No, this just happened. So how could that then make you be a failure? Just let that in. You're not a failure. It's just the wonderful chaos.
I see how my mind wants to resist and fight this off.
Yeah. So we'll just make a little intermission there. That's what the mind does, right? It decides on a reality and then it just looks for proof and stays in that reality. That's what we all do. And this process of inquiry is opening the mind from that like very tunnel vision perspective on things and saying, oh, could there be other truths? Yes, wow. And then we're back in the flow. And it's wonderful that you notice this. But let's take it up one step then. What's the opposite of failure to you? What's the opposite?
Success.
Okay, so you're a success. Okay, so how does this situation, you don't have any money on your account, you're putting stuff back on the shelf and walking out. How does that actually mean you're a success?
Because I knew being an entrepreneur, there were risks, and I still said yes to that.
Yeah.
So I potentially knew that there were consequences, and I still chose that path.
Yes.
And that makes me feel emotional.
Yeah. Yeah, you're I imagine what you do is something that you really, like, you have your heart in, you really want to do. And you've chosen that over working in the bank or whatever thing. So I can ask you, like, take two people and compare them. One person who's following his dreams, even though it means that he doesn't have a lot of money and he may die poor, but all the way through, he's been following his dreams and going with his heart. And another person who has quenched the dreams and gone for the security of having financial security and having the right house and the car and the dog and the wife and everything. Like, who of those two would you say is the biggest success from your perspective?
I'm the success, but there's a lot of suffering on that journey. So I don't know. I think they both equally have their hand in the suffering.
What's the suffering on the journey that you're on? What's the suffering?
Well, if it's blind, then saying that I'm a failure.
By the way, you stepped out of the emotion somehow. You were in some place and then you stepped out.
Thank you.
And I don't know what the point was, but you...
I think it was my question. I think it was, I was putting up this comparison a little...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you didn't allow it.
Time thing.
Can I chime in there?
Yeah.
Who would you rather be? Would you rather be the guy slaving away unhappy or the guy suffering and actually living his dream?
Living my dream.
Okay. And so when getting back to your question, so what is success? So you're going away somewhere. Stay with us.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are you going to?
I just felt stuckness in my body. And if you ask me what is success, then I have to go to my head and I'm trying to feel it.
Okay. Yeah. So that's not actually the. No,
exactly. Yeah. Thank you for.
And I think it's a beautiful example because some of the stuff. So you were beautifully in that emotional flow, and then I came in with a question that actually took you a little out of it, for different reasons, and then so it illustrates well what this is. It has.
There was some resistance to attach words like dedication, devotion, to success because I want to push that away from me.
You want to push away dedication and devotion?
There's part of me that doesn't want to own that.
Right. Okay.
Because it makes me look like a heroic figure, and I don't want to have that image in my mind.
Right. Yeah. So this is another example of what happens is that we uncover underlying beliefs, right? So we start with this belief, I'm a failure. And as we step into that room and start our inquiry, we discover it's being held by different things. So one of the ways for you to own your success would perhaps involve owning that you are actually courageous, more courageous than most of us. And you don't want that identity, so you're pushing that away, and so you can't own the success. And so as we would look into that would be like, that's just in our eyes. So why are you so busy? Or that's putting it in an unkind way.
It can be that way.
But you're perceiving yourself through how do we see you, and you don't want us to see you in a certain way, which is interesting, right? Why don't you want us to see you as a hero? And more stuff is there, like, well, then there are expectations, then there are like things I have to live up to. I don't want to do that. I want to be free. And so we start rummaging around in this space where all these beliefs carry each other. And over time, as we inquire like we did now, they gradually let go, and the world just becomes clearer and clearer. And so eventually you can do all the hardships. You can be in there and not have any money, and there's no suffering. It's exactly the same situation, but there's no suffering because the suffering is created by you comparing your life with an idea about how it should be. having enough money on the bank account to buy this stuff, right? If you were unable to compare that, there would be no suffering. That would just be, oh, no money. Oh, I put it back. I go out. And I'm stepping a little quick here because we're in this conversation situation rather than an actual session, right? But I think
it was interesting because it got harder for you than I would have expected.
Harder?
Yeah, where I saw Bambos struggle, right, with the embrace, I was confused. Because exactly in the thing you noted that was very curious to me was there was something that I don't yet understand. There's a lot of things I don't understand, but one specific thing here was that in the embrace of I can't embrace my strength in the sense of where you were going with Bambos, where I just said, wow, you know, I just recognized maybe for the first time, or yeah, at least the depth of it. You can't embrace the depth of which you're actually succeeding just by taking the journey you're on. Like that's something you just aren't able to accept.
Yeah.
Thank you for the qualification.
And there are probably some beliefs there that we could then go into, right? And a session like this would usually take an hour and a half or so. That seems to be how much we can the nervous system can sort of handle in one go. And it usually there's a flow through that and it lands in a good place. And then some things are cleared up and then a new one. So doing this in 15 minutes is a bit of a...
Hey, if you were really good, then it would be 10. Process. Come on.
Yeah, true. And I'm not. So
it's okay. I'll clean us up afterwards. We'll have a talk afterwards, just in case it isn't grounded and integrated.
No, I think well, whatever. Yeah, but this so this is an example. So just to put some meta on it, it's like we have these 4 questions which are like looking at, is it actually true what we're believing? Can I know that it's true? And then what happens when I believe it? What happens to my whole life when I believe it? And what would it be like without it? And that allows our nervous system to experience like both the question, is it true, but also what's it like to believe this? What would it be like without it? And like for me, it's like it wakes up and goes, hey, this is a bad strategy. This is like stupid. It feels much better to not believe this, which is what opens us for the turnarounds, which are where we go into these opposite positions that you also spoke up in just a position. Well, these opposites. And that's where the mind then opens. And as we see things from these other perspectives, this original position can't be upheld, and the whole thing collapses. And suddenly there's freedom again, and there's flow, just like there is in so many other areas in our life where we just do things. Now suddenly we can just do things again. We can just make that Facebook update or social media post and say, "Hey guys, this is where I'm at." And smile.
It's interesting because in a way, I guess I hadn't seen how clearly Byron Katie was really a Buddhist practice, but actually it's just another way of like letting go of attachment. And attachment, an idea in your head is also an attachment, not a thing, or so.
Attachment to stuff and identity also.
Yeah. I was talking a bit on another show. I did this tour through the US and I had this really big gig, got on the big station in San Francisco. And then the next day, no one showed up. I went to a bookstore, just a 0. And I was like, I published it and showed myself sitting at the desk. And I was like more proud of that moment than the TV moment. Because I'm like, this is it. Like this
Here I am.
Yeah.
Here I am.
And there was joy in it. It was actually more viewed than any other video. And it sort of, it felt very similar as you were describing the going to the supermarket and putting the stuff back.
Yeah. Coming out of hiding is just the best, right? To show ourselves the way we are. Yes, I'm a failure, or now I'm I don't have money, or no one showed up, instead of having to walk around and hide all this stuff and pretend as if everything's cool. And it's just so much easier to this is who I am. So much easier for people to relate to, so much more honest, straightforward, authentic. Oh man, what we do to keep up appearances. It's madness.
Yeah. What were you going to say? You had something you were going to say?
No, it's good.
Okay. Nice.
And thank you for going so deep with this. I mean, I really honor that ability to step right in where the action is, so to speak. It was a beautiful.
We've done enough shows to.
Yeah, we knew what we were inviting you into.
Yeah. Good. But that was really.
And I think the ratings did go up.
Yeah. Once the tears come, we get past, like, we start breaking records every day.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that.
Which is also good for you because I fully endorse you, and,
Yeah.
and that's a rare thing.
Yeah, he kind of, you know,
Yeah.
less than 50% get endorsed by you, I think. You
But
appreciate them.
I want to point out that one of the misunderstandings people sometimes have about inquiry under any form and the work as well is that it's like an intellectual process. So they go up and they rationalize, or they reflect, or they observe, you know. But what you did was exactly what we needed. You know, we want to go down instead. We want to go in. It's a meditative journey. It's not like psychoanalysis.
There was a really beautiful moment when you asked, and it's interesting because I'll do the same, and I just like seeing it when someone does it as well. You said go back to an experience when it was true for you.
Yeah.
And I laugh because I see, if it's not there, it becomes conceptualized, and we're not embodying it at all.
Totally.
And then we're talking to a rational being and not the integrated being that's actually in a situation. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. When we're working with these parts, whatever like modality we're in, we need them to be present.
Yeah.
Can't just talk about them. They have to be invited in and welcomed, as we talked about earlier. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's the book that I'll be coming out with at the end of this month is the Wounded Healer, and it's also kind of pulling from this kind of coherence therapy. It's a practice. It's different than Byron Katie's, but it has a similar tone to it, where the person states the thing that they resist most and just follows it with it, and it's fucking great.
I don't have any money on my bank account, and it's fucking great. That's lovely. Yeah, that's lovely.
Shit. Everyone should have that experience. It's so good.
Yeah, I can feel it. It's like, it's fucking great.
Yeah, but you can experience it because you've done enough work that you can access it. And it's challenging, of course, if someone isn't able to go to the place where your brain, because you're fucking with your own brain, actually.
Absolutely. It's the same. It is a lot of the same process. It's going to another place and seeing it from a new angle. Yeah, it's sweet.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. There'll be 20 articles on Buzzworthy, which just have archetypes dealing with exactly relation issues, money issues, whatever. And it's just addressing it, the same practice in different ways.
End of the month, right?
End of the month. Yeah. It'll be a 3-month series, but it's very much in this kind of this juxtaposition event where you create another reality, which is so at odds with the current one that actually when you make peace with it, the idea just dissolves, like you mentioned before, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. It was really great being with you. What a random one this was. Just, I get a Facebook ad. Hey, you want to be on a show?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I came on and I was like, so what do we have today?
Yeah. Well, the open mind. Just step in and see what happens, right? It's beautiful. Yeah.
I do believe we have another show in us with you. Going into inquiry in general. This went to Byron Katie, so it might be nice to sort of pick another theme area, because I do believe there's so much to speak around living a life of inquiry, which is, yes, Byron Katie is one form, but there is a way of being in the world, which I've experienced to be fundamentally different in terms of how you view and experience it. And I think that would be a great show.
Maybe you guys should be together and I'll interview you too.
Nice. That would be nice.
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah. And I want to say, so Byron Katie is one source, and exactly this more broad approach you can find in my work. So another option is just to go to my website as well to find some of that stuff.
Yeah. Can you do me a favor? Like leave in the chat, we can leave it. So for people that are interested in your work, would like to contact you, then
cool.
And you can also speak it out right now so people hear that.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, it's called The Art of Being Human. My company is called The Art of Being Human. So it's theartofbeinghuman.com.
Great.
That's where you find me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us.
Resources there. Yeah. Well, thank you. My pleasure. And thank you. But
we look forward to seeing you next time on the real show that we do about a life of inquiry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
That was nice. I noticed whenever Byron Katie's work comes up, I'll always cry. Always.
So what moment did you cry?
When when I heard you say that I put the things back on the whatever on the shelves, then I'll always feel a bit of an empathetic response of being in that situation and understanding the overwhelm, especially when one isn't at peace with it like I am. You know me, I'd put it back and I'd take pictures of myself and, you know, enjoy it. So, I mean, but knowing how hard it is for another, that's where I can really feel the pain, you know. And that also has to be with mom's death. After my mom died, you know, I saw that I was much more empathetic to other people's pain, and that would actually be an interesting one. I'd love to talk to Ernst. I'd like to talk to him again around that. He mentioned something we didn't get into so much, but it was really curious to me. Was you asked him about how far are you able to hold space when you haven't had a similar experience? Yeah. You didn't phrase it that way per se, but that's what I heard. And then there's some aspect of that which I find very curious of in holding space and not having had a similar experience. What is the space you can hold in yourself for that, even if you haven't had that experience?
Wow. Yeah.
And there's a lot to discuss there. So that would also be a really nice, session to go into. What does it mean to hold space? That alone would be an incredible session. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
You've had a busy day, actually, a course, and then you had another course. Yeah. We'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is a really cool show. We have Anthony Iliano, who is in the new book. He's in a new book. He's in the chapter called My Totally Unreliable Friend. Anthony has trouble saying no. He has trouble if someone says, can you do me a favor? Or if you want, he just has a really hard time saying no. And I said, can we have you on the show to do that as the episode? He said, yeah. So tomorrow is
because he couldn't say no.
Exactly. Because he couldn't say no. That's the first thing we're going to joke about. I got you on knowing you couldn't say no. We have that tomorrow on A Wonderful Chaos.